Hi, I'm Miss Luong, and I am your teacher for the online Pre-Calculus 30S course. So I'm just going to talk about myself for a little bit so you have an idea of who I am, and then we'll get straight into the course outline and then information about the course in general. So about me, well, I am a Winnipegger born and raised. So I even went to J.H. Bruns Collegiate and graduated in 2012. I also love math, and I think that's pretty obvious, knowing that I am a math teacher, but I do like to do math a lot. Like I actually enjoy doing pre-cal answer keys and marking pre-cal, looking at pre-cal, provincial exams. I know, it's kind of nerdy. I also like to bake. I haven't baked for a while because I'm trying to watch what I eat because it's not really good for you that if you bake a whole cake and you're the only one that really eats it, it's not really good for you. So I've been kind of doing it less, but this is the cake I baked for myself my last birthday. It's an Oreo cookies and cream cake and it was amazing. I also love to travel and I usually like to travel at least 2 to 3 times a year. So last year I went to Mexico. I also went to Brazil and New York. This year I'm going to go to Jamaica in March for spring break because I'm getting married there as a destination wedding. So I'm pretty excited about that. I also love food, but really who doesn't? But I actually like to go on adventures once a week on the weekend to a restaurant I've never been before or like try new dishes I haven't been before at awesome restaurants. I was also a competitive bodybuilding athlete. I don't really do it anymore, but I still follow the same sort of regime where I go to the gym 4 times a week, try to stick to a healthy diet as much as possible, and that sort of thing. I used to play piano and guitar. I still do a little bit, but not very much anymore. I'm getting married in March, already said that, and this is where I got engaged in Banff. I also don't really know how to swim very well. I learned a little bit while I was in Brazil. In the ocean, it's a lot easier to swim in salt water than it is to swim in a pool, that's for sure. So I've done some snorkeling, but I'm definitely still not confident about my swimming skills. I don't know if I'd die or not if I get thrown in the ocean, but I feel like I could potentially survive. I also dislike country music. My favorite is pop music and some rap. So that's a bit about me. And this is found on mathwithlong.weebly.com. This is the website you're going to be watching all of your lecture videos on, and I will insert the links into the OneNote when they are up. So for you, you're going to go under courses, you're taking grade 11, and the first unit we're going to cover is quadratics. I'm going to be posting all the videos on here in sequence from video 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on, and I'll tell you which videos to watch in the timeline in your OneNote. So going into your OneNote, let's talk about the course outline. So this is the course outline. You can take a read, but we're covering 7 different units. It is a very fast-paced course because it is pre-cal. It's not the easiest type of math to take, especially online, so you have to stay on top of things, meaning that if a lecture video is assigned, please watch it the same day. Don't try to backlog 3 videos in a row because that's going to be way too much information for you to cover. So try to do a video a day and do the homework, just like how you attend class and do homework that same night. That's how it's going to be laid out. I don't want you to cram at all. It's too much information for you to cram. You also need a scientific calculator. You're going to be trying to stay away from the calculator as much as possible, just because if you take grade 12 pre-cal, most of it's non-calculator. So I need to prepare you for something like that. So your final exam is 30% of your grade. Your unit tests are worth 50%. They will be administered in your school during your spare. So your student services teacher will be the one administering it for me, and then they will send it to me. And then your assignments are going to be 20%, and you're going to find that in your folders on the side here. in your personal folder, and I'll tell you what is assigned, and you just send me your finished copy and I will mark it. So here are some expectations. Again, I want you to check OneNote frequently. I will be using Teams eventually. I'm still waiting for the school division to set it up for me, and we're going to do our communication on there. So if you have any questions, there's a chat on there. You just start chatting with me on it. Or if you need some one-on-one help, then we can set up a conference time where we can webcam, or if you're camera shy, I can just be the only one on camera, but I can answer the questions and answer it in live time, and I can write it on the tablet as well. I want to make sure you communicate with me frequently, meaning that if you don't understand a concept or a specific question, please contact me about it. Don't wait. It is pre-cal. It's very intensive. You will require some extra help, and I know that. So please, I won't know that you need help unless you tell me. So please make sure you're in contact with me. Just repeating myself again, keep watching those lecture videos on time. Don't backlog too many videos at once. Just make sure that if you even have a spare, then watch that video on your spare and then do homework whenever you have time to. It's really easy to fall behind, so make sure that you are organized enough so that you don't. I will give you the deadlines in advance if you have a test or an assignment. And if you are unable to complete that assignment by the due date, please email me to let me know, and then we can assign something else for a different timeline for you. So that's your course outline. Your first unit we're going to cover is quadratics. Now, all your other units are going to be listed here as well. And in each unit, there will be a timeline. So I want you to follow this timeline as strictly as you can. And that's just mainly because it helps you stay on track. So for February 3rd, I want you to watch this video and then print out the note package and copy the factor notes. So later in this video, I'm going to do a little review on factoring. So I want you to make sure you're listening and then copying down like you would in a classroom. Then I want you to do the factoring review practice on page 4. So your quadratics note package is really, really large. That's because all your homework is inserted in there as well. There are practice questions after every lesson. And the last thing I want you to do is fill the About Me questions. I think I have about 4 questions or so in the homework section. So please try to answer them because I will read and see who you are and get a bit of an idea of what your goals are. So we are going to go into the quadratic notes. So again, please print this if you have access. You can print this at the school. This is a breakdown of all the lessons that we're going to go through in this unit. And then I have a little organizer on the side for you so you can just check it when it's completed. Before we learn the new pre-cal stuff, we're going to focus on the basics. So we're going to focus on factoring as our review because we do need this skill in order to move on. So when you're factoring, there's some basic things you need to think about. The first thing is there anything in common between these terms first? Because you may need to factor out a number before you even go on, or even a variable. The second thing is this a trinomial? Because if it's a trinomial, there are usually 2 methods in doing this, which is factoring your basic method, where you start off x plus or minus a number times x plus or minus a number, or you may have to do a different method because there is a number in the front, just like this one, or like this one. Okay, so we're just going to start off with A, and we're going to see if there's anything in common between 2x squared and 4x. And if we think about that, well, yes, I could probably factor 2 because one has a coefficient of 2 and the other one has one of 4. And I can also factor out an x because there's x's in each term. So we're going to factor out a 2x. And then when we do that, to find out what's inside this bracket here, we're essentially dividing each term by 2x, and whatever you get left over is what we're putting inside this bracket here. So that means we have x left over because 2x squared divided by 2x is just x, and then 4x divided by 2x is just 2. So that is our answer there. 2x times x plus 2. Let's try b. Now, there's nothing in common between these three terms, so we're just going to have to factor it as our standard factoring technique. So I usually start out by just writing out the format because I know it has to have two sets of brackets and it needs to start with an x, because we also start with an x squared here. The second thing I'm going to do is look at our last term and look at the factors of 8. So 8 has factors 4 and 2. And then I'm trying to recreate this number here, -2. So with 4 and 2, which are factors of 8, can I create a -2? We can if we had a -4 plus 2, because -4 plus 2 is -2 and 4 and 2 is a factor, or factors of 8. So this is your final answer. And you can also double check to make sure you got this right by expanding again. And if you expand it again, and if you do this on the side, you will see that you'll get back B. Okay, we can try C now. So again, the first thing I want to do is see if there's anything in common between the three terms. Now, it looks like we could possibly take out a -4. And then when we do that, we're left with t squared plus 4t minus 32. Again, if you forgot how to get this inside bracket part, because we're factoring out -4, you would just divide each term by -4 to get what's inside the bracket here. Then our next step is to factor this t squared plus 4t minus 32. And it'll be the same method as b. So I just set it up accordingly. Now I think about factors of 32, which are 8 and 4. And with 8 and 4, I can create a 4 by having positive 8 minus 4. Because 8 minus 4 is 4, and 8 times -4 is -32. Let's try D. Now let's see if we have anything in common between these three terms. We have a 3, a -13, and a -10. So nothing with coefficients. And we don't have x's in each term either. So then we have to use a different method. Now I know teachers have different methods in doing this. I'm going to show you the box method. It's a very simple process to use. But you do need to remember how to use a process. So I'm going to think about factors of 3. And there's only one set of factors for 3, which is 3 and 1. So I'm going to write them at the top like this. And below it, I'm going to write factors of 10. Now it does take some trial and error sometimes, but if you do this enough, you know exactly which ones to pick and which order to pick it in. So I'm going to use 5 and 2 for my factors of 10. And I'm going to arrange them like so. So just in some order underneath. Now I'm going to multiply them diagonally, and I'm going to write the numbers down here. So if I multiply 3 and 5, I'm going to get 15. If I multiply 1 and 2, I'm going to get 2. Now I'm going to think about, can I create a -13 with 15 and 2? Yes, if I had a -15 and a positive 2. -15 plus 2 is -13. And this neg is going to reflect just right above it. And this positive just above it. So this is what I'm going to put inside each bracket. That's one set of brackets, and that's the other set of brackets. So this is equal to 3x plus 2. So notice the order. The top number has an x associated with it, and this is just a constant by itself. Then this will be x minus 5. And that would be our final answer. If you have a different method, feel free to use it as long as you can get the same answer. For E, we're going to do the same sort of thing. Look for common factors between the three terms, and in this case, there are none. Now, when I think about factors of 4, I can use 4 and 1 or 2 and 2. So in this case, I'm just going to use 2 and 2. For 9, the factors of 9 are 3 and 3, so it doesn't really matter which order I put it in. So we're going to cross multiply it or multiply diagonally. So 2 times 3 is 6, 2 times 3 is 6. You can create a positive 12 as long as both of them are positive. So this is what we're putting in our brackets. 2x plus 3, 2x plus 3, or you can say 2x plus 3 squared. Now understand with this method, it is trial and error, because if you pick 4 and 1 and then 3 and 3, it may not work out with the numbers you have down here. So you're just going to have to try again and again to see what order you're going to put in and also which numbers you're going to put down. But again, once you do it enough, it's just intuitive. You just know which ones to pick. Okay, and then the last one is F, the difference of squares. So 81 is a perfect square, and 49 is also a perfect square. We know the format has to look like this. We have a variable minus plus or minus a number, variable plus or minus a number. Now let's look at the first number. We know that if we square root 81, that's going to be 9. So we're going to have 9 in the first term for both of them. And we also need an m, because that's our variable. So now 9m times 9m is 81m squared. Now let's look at the second term. This is also a perfect square. The square root of 49 is 7. And we need to get a negative 49. So that the only way to get a negative is if we have a positive times a negative to get a negative 49. Now, if you have a positive and a negative, with your difference of squares, your middle term is going to cancel out. So that means we're going to get 81m squared, and then this 9m times negative 7 will cancel out with the 7 times 9m. And you're just left with negative 49. So you can even expand this to check our work. And that's all we're going to do for the factoring review. Please check to see what homework will be assigned.